Hello and welcome back to Odds Now, your home of all things sports betting here on YouTube. And if you like watching sports betting previews and analysis, well, you're in the right place here at Odds Now. That's kind of what we do. And if you are a first-time visitor here, please do have a look around the channel. And if you think it's your kind of thing, we'd really appreciate you hitting subscribe. It's great to have people on board. We're trying to build a betting community here on the channel, and we'd love you to be a part of it. So as you can see by the title of today's video, we are looking at the PDC World Championship anti-post market. Now, my name is Matt Hill, and for those who may know me or may not know me, well, darts is kind of my bag, really. It's probably my favourite sport, certainly my favourite and most profitable sport to bet on. So I love looking at this World Championship anti-post market and just kind of getting a feel for how it moves throughout the year, what moves we may see in terms of prices over the coming months, what a very busy period coming up in the world of darts. So a lot of tungsten to be tossed between now and December, but here I am speaking on the 5th of September, going to give you a bit of an overview of how the market looks now and how it may shift in the weeks ahead. Now, obviously, we have some big events coming up, as I touched on, the World Series of Darts finals later this month. Then we have things like the European Championship and the World Grand Prix in October. We have the Grand Slam of Darts in November and the Players' Championship finals. All roads then lead to Ali Pali. So if a player wins one of those tournaments, of course, their price is going to shift. If you're seeing this video kind of retrospectively, please be aware that prices will have changed since today I'm speaking, and I won't get everything right, but hopefully I could guide you in the direction of a few winners. So anyway, without further ado, let's get on to the market. I'm going to share Odds Checker on my screen, and we'll take a look at a few different players, starting with the favourites. So as of September the 5th, 2024, this is our PDC World Championship betting market. Luke Littler, the outright favourite, this 17-year-old sensation. He's a best price of 3-1 with Sky Bet, Unibet, etc. Now, it's worth saying and pointing out that Luke Humphries is actually favourite at a lot of books, places like Bet365, Bet Victor, Ladbrokes have them joints. So, yeah, this is purely on where the biggest price is available. Betfair and Paddy have got Humphries at 10-3, so we have to class Littler as the outright favourite. Is that the correct way around? I'll come on to that in a minute, but I think should give Littler some credit first. What a debut year he has had on the senior tour. It's mad to think that last November, Luke Littler was 100-1 shot to win the World Championship. And he got all the way to the final, of course, and now comes in as the outright favourite, or at least he's set to be. Maybe a lot of change between now and December, as I say earlier in the video. But what a year he's had. Look, a couple of World Series wins, a couple of Euro Tour wins, a couple of Pro Tour wins on the floor, and just numerous good performances, really. He's really shown that he was no flash in the pan. His Premier League campaign was a joy to behold, obviously. Disappointing, I suppose, in the sense that he didn't really manage to back up those runs in the UK Open and the World Match Play. UK Open, very credible run to the quarterfinals. Damon Heta getting the better of him there, 10-8. For me, probably the game of the year thus far. So I lost nothing in defeat there. But, you know, with the little hype train, I think everyone was hoping that he was going to get to the final, maybe meet Luke Humphries again. Didn't quite come off. Damon was sensational on the day. The World Match Play, however, he will have been disappointed. He drew Michael van Gerwen in the first round. There was a lot of talk about whether, you know, a lot of people just presuming that Littler was going to get past MVG because he was in much better form, but it's rarely how it goes, isn't it, with these class players, and MVG rose to the occasion. Littler was far from his best, fair to say, beaten 10-4. That was the one blot on his copybook this year, I think. In the last few weeks, we've seen his schedule managed a lot more, I would say, by his team and by Littler himself. He's kind of swerved a couple of events here and there. He did go out to Australia and New Zealand for the World Series, which I presume the PDC were extremely keen for him to do from a marketing perspective. So how much he wanted to do that, I suppose it's a free holiday for the lad, isn't it? But yeah, so I think he really needs to be careful with managing his schedule over the coming months, because Littler is the closest the world of darts has ever had to a celebrity. He's been on talk shows. He's a global news story. Everything he does is in the papers. So that's bound to take its toll. And he's coming in a very different position to what he was last year, where he was the young gun. Probably only sort of darts hardcore fans knew anything of him. He had quite a favourable run, should be said. Not to take anything away from his performances, which were all outstanding, but to manage to make the semi-finals, playing the likes of Christian Kist, Andrew Gilding, Brendan Dolan, etc., and kind of all the seeds he was meant to bump into kind of fell by the wayside. Going Price, Gary Anderson, etc. Yeah, you do have to say he had a nice run last year, and that's unlikely to repeat itself this year. But then when he did bump into Rob Cross, he dismantled him. And to be honest, he started the better player in the final against Luke Humphries before experience arguably told there. But yeah, Humphries 10-3 there in the betting with Betfair. I'll declare my position now. I've been backing Humphries for the last couple of months. I think that there was sort of 9-2, 4-1 on offer not so long ago at all. If I had to back one player to win this World Championship, it'd be Luke Humphries. And like cards on the table, that's why I have to describe him as my nap right now for this tournament. Luke Humphries, I still think there's juice there at 10-3, because if I was hanging my hat on one of him or Littler, it would be Humphries every time. I think in terms of natural ability, there's not a lot to separate them at all. I think consistency, you'd have to give Humphries the edge. But the key area for me is composure and major winning experience. Humphries has now won multiple majors, hasn't he? And although he missed match starts to win the UK Open against Dimitri Van den Berg, he showed all of his grit and all of his class to then bounce back at the match play and lift that title for the first time. And that is a tough tournament to win. Only the very best players tend to succeed in Blackpool. And Humphries is that. When he turns up at a major event, you can set your watch to him being in the latter stages and probably winning it at the moment. He said himself openly he doesn't think he can continue this level of domination because of how good the field is around him, the likes of Littler. However, just find him very hard to oppose at the moment. Would you want to be going against Luke Humphries at the moment under any circumstances? It's difficult, isn't it? So I think if you're building a book, you've got to get him on side at 10-3, because there's a very real danger he wins a couple of tournaments over the next 2 months and goes off 7-4. So if I was advising a bet there out the two, it'd be Luke Humphries. I also think with Luke Littler's price, you have to realise that there is a little bit of shielding coming into play there from the bookies. They don't want to run up a huge liability on Littler. Every man and his dog is going to want to back Littler, isn't he? Come Christmas, all the casual darts fans are going to come in and have their bets on Luke Littler to win the Worlds. He'll be running in a hell of a load of multiples, I'm sure, throughout the year. So, yeah, for me, I think that Humphries is the closer to value. And I think there is still a bit of value in that price as well. And I wouldn't be convinced he's going to get much bigger than that 10-3. So if you want to get on Luke Humphries, maybe now is the time to pull the trigger, I would say. The other two that I'll mention in this section of the favourites, Michael van Gerwen, I think, I can't remember the last time Michael van Gerwen went off 7-1 or bigger for a World Championship. I know his price has been on the drift over the last couple of years. The days of evens, MVG and odds on MVG are long gone. But although he's failed to win and add to those 3 world titles, and by God, I think most of us thought he was destined to win double figures when he lifted his third. But he's failed to add to it. But he still brings his best to the Ali Pali, doesn't he? He's so reliable. MVG went out last year to Scott Williams in the quarters. Now that was probably the biggest upset he's suffered, I would say, at the Alexandra Palace, and very out of character. MVG Williams played well, but to me there was a little bit of an element of MVG perhaps overlooking him a little bit. Already had his eye on the semi-final with Luke Humphries. He was talking a very good game going into that. So yeah, he'll have been heartbroken with the way that went last year. And he's had some near misses here recently, hasn't he? That final loss to Michael Smith. Yes, Michael Smith won it more than MVG lost it. But Michael van Gerwen in that tournament, although people will only remember it for Michael Smith winning the trophy, Michael van Gerwen was unplayable in the rest of that tournament. He was whitewashing players left, right and centre. Chris Dobey got a pasting. Dimitri Van den Berg got a pasting, having looked fantastic before his bumping into MVG. So he just gets it done at the Ali Pali, doesn't he? It's really hard to say that, you know, to categorically rule Van Gerwen out of this. But I wouldn't be a backer at 11-2, where he is in a lot of places. But at 7-1, is he going to get much bigger? Probably not. So if you're building a book, again, maybe now is the time to strike, because MVG could quite easily win one of these upcoming tournaments, multiple of these upcoming tournaments. The key thing to point out with MVG as well, he's had reconstructive surgery on his jaw. It's a problem that's been bothering him for over a year now. He's had various time off and periods of playing through pain and stuff, but this recent surgery was designed to fix the problem. He returned to action last week at the Euro Tour. He lost to Peter Wright, but prior to that and during that game, he played really, really well. So if MVG is out of pain and he brings the level that he normally does to the Ali Pali, 7-1 looks a fair price to me. Going price, and I suppose we should mention Michael Smith in this favourite section as well. Starting with going price, I can't have him. I can't have going price at the Ali Pali, unfortunately. I do think he'll win majors again. My old colleague Adam Smith has said that he doesn't think going price will win another major. I do understand that rhetoric. Whether his mindset is there or not, who knows? He definitely has more interest out of darts than a lot of these guys do. And he definitely has a love-hate relationship with the sport. But I know he desperately wants to win this with the crowd in. But let's have it right. That crowd is a massive, massive factor still for price. Although he's getting more respect from crowds in other venues, when it comes to Ali Pali and all the casual once-a-year darts fans are out, Price is getting stick. He's getting booed. He's getting whistled. He's getting heckled. And it gets to get to anyone. But unfortunately, that is factored into his price. If you were going purely, if you look at other tournaments, if you look at a floor tournament, for example, going price will be a very similar price to MVG, and there will be a lot less of a gap between those two and the top two. But the 14s tells you all about the venue. If they were to ever move the World Championships away from Ali Pali, and if they ever went to Saudi Arabia for the money, like we're seeing a lot of sports do, like snooker at the moment, I would be a backer of going price. I would, but I can't have him at that price. And Michael Smith, the final man I'll mention in this favourite section, well, he's 18-1. He wouldn't be for me, but equally, he's another one. Is he going to get much bigger than 18-1? Probably not. Michael Smith normally goes off around 10s, 12s, doesn't he? And he's been there and done it, of course, world champion 2 years ago. A lot of people questioned his desire. Is he the kind of character that wants to win 2, 3, 4, 5, or has he already scaled his mountain? Well, Smith has quite vehemently denied that in his interviews. He says he's determined to prove people wrong that he can win more. He's certainly got the game to do it. But I would say even the year that he won it, he had to dodge a few bullets on the way, didn't he? He did. He could have gone out quite easily before the final. Now, he was excellent in the final, and he can lift his game, Michael Smith. When he plays a big player, I always expect him to lift his game. So, there's a lot going for him. But Michael Smith, out of all these guys at the top end, is the one I would worry about most in the early rounds. I think he's vulnerable to a short format upset. If he's still there come the quarterfinals, he's a tough man to get rid of. So yeah, 18-1 again. I don't have many qualms with that price. I actually think it's quite backable, but it wouldn't be for me. But that's my rundown of the favourites. Just moving it on then to what I'm going to call the kind of I don't know, what should we call them? The pretenders, the outsiders, look, the quality we've got in our ranks here. We've got, all four of the first guys to mention this section have won a world title. Stephen Bunting in the BD, obviously, and then Cross, Anderson and Wright, all former world champions. Anderson and Wright, multiple former world champions. But the reason, the top and bottom of it is they don't do it as regularly in the majors these days as the guys above them. So while they have the ability any time to potentially win one of these, you just can't hang your hat on them like you can the other guys. Let's start with Rob Cross, 22-1 best price at Star Sports and on the Betfair Exchange. Rob Cross's form last year was phenomenal, but he just kept seeming to bump into one player playing even better. He came against some astronomical averages in finals on the Euro Tour and what have you. But Rob Cross, he did have a good experience at Ali Pali last year, didn't he, on the whole? Who could forget that memorable win over Chris Dobey, where he was 4-1 down, dead and buried, and came back to win 5-4, arguably the greatest ever Ali Pali comeback. But he couldn't capitalise on it. He bumped into Luke Littler in the semi-final, and Littler saved his best performance for that night. That was the jaw-dropping performance for me with Luke Littler when he demolished and dismantled Cross. Cross, he obviously is well suited to the Ali Pali. He's won here before. He's very, very solid doubler. But yeah, I can't quite see him winning it. I see him going deep without winning it. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of these guys. Gary Anderson, I'm a massive fan of, and Stephen Bunting to come on to him. But Gary Anderson has been, his renaissance in the last 18 months has been the feel-good story of darts, potentially for me. Just came back from the dead. He had to sort of self-motivate himself by deciding that everyone had wrote him off. I'm not sure everyone had wrote him off as quite as aggressively as he suggested they had, but whatever works for you, works for you. And it was fuel to his fire. And on the raw numbers, you look at the year-to-date averages, Gary Anderson is right up there at the top. He's right up there next to Luke Humphries, Going Price, and then Littler and MVG not far behind. But yeah, Gary Anderson, in terms of his performances this year, as good as anyone. But he came in last year. I'd backed him at 80s and 66s last year. I was very, very happy with my position on him last year. He kind of stumbled through to round 3 or 4 and then went out to Brendan Dolan with an underwhelming, scrappy performance. And that was disappointing for me. And Gary, at this stage of his career, he does have he is prone to throwing in a stinker every now and then. He just needs to get the momentum behind him early. I feel like he's the one player in these top 15, 20 where he could do with going out and averaging 103 on the first night, or in his first round match, a second round match, as they come in at the second round, obviously. But just to give him that confidence and get him into that rhythm early, because Anderson, even though he's won the World Championship multiple times, I always detect nerves in his early games of majors these days. I think he knows he doesn't have that many majors left. I think he has a great desire to win another major and just show everyone that he can. But like, I feel that pressure in his early round matches, and I think that transcends into his game sometimes, and normally finds a way through. But enough red flags around Gary Anderson for me not to want to back him at 25 and just cheer him on as a fan, really. Same for Stephen Bunting at 33. He couldn't have came into the World Championship last year in better form, could he? Phenomenal back end to the year. Cruised into the last 16. Then he played Michael Van Gerwen and he got whitewashed. And it was like man against boy. And that was really disappointing. But he avenged that defeat. He won the Masters, his first PDC major title, I suppose, in January. Has he quite hit the heights of 2023 this year? I would say not. Other than that Masters win, in the last few months, he's in good form still, but I still wouldn't say he's in as good a form as he was last year. So he'd be a player I'd want to see a bit of in terms of a deep run between now and the Ali Pali before getting involved in him. I think 33 is about right. Peter Wright, possibly the most interesting mover in this market over the last month, was as big as 100 on the Betfair exchange last week before, out of nowhere, delivering a Euro Tour masterclass. And he lifted that title last weekend, beat MVG, then beat Luke Littler in the final. Littler averaging 107, but still couldn't get to Wright, who came back from 5-2 down to win 8-5. It was unbelievable to watch, and really a very emotional Peter Wright was as well. And you can understand it, can't you? Because he's had a really, really tough time of things, and it feels like a lot of people had written him off and said he was finished. And you wondered whether Wright even had that desire and belief to get back to where he was. But he said he has kept believing, and he was very emotional. So, yeah, great to see him back at the top. Can he go and win another World Championship? I don't know. He's done it before. And yeah, he's a dangerous player to write off entirely. And I think the market, it's fair to say the market had done that. As I say, he was a 80 to 100 to 1 shot just 2 weeks ago for this. Now he's into 40s. That is the right price. I wouldn't be rushing to back him at that price. But yeah, good to see him back competing. Always someone you've got to treat with respect, and a very hard man to get right, pardon the pun. But yeah, an interesting runner nevertheless. Now, the man below him, it's a general 33 chance, as you can see. There is 40 to 1 available with one bookmaker. It's whether that particular bookmaker will lay you a bet, I suppose. But I'm going to put him as 33 just for purposes of fairness. Everyone can get on that 33. And I'm going to say that this is my next best and potentially my best bet, to be honest, in terms of sheer value. Chris Dobey, 33 to 1. He's someone I backed last year at a very similar price, maybe 40 to 1, 50 to 1. And what a great run we got for our money. In fact, coming into the quarterfinals, Chris Dobey was the most impressive player at the tournament. He looked like a potential winner. Although all the headlines were on Luke Littler, Chris Dobey's numbers and his general performances were outstanding. Now, in that quarterfinal, as I've already touched on, he bumped into Rob Cross and he dominated Rob Cross. He was 4-1 up in the race to 5. And then, unfortunately, the match suddenly took a dramatic swing. And as I say, possibly the best comeback ever at the Ali Pali, Cross going through 5-4. Heartbreak for Dobey. And a lot of people will say that he bottled that match. I don't agree. I think Cross won that match. I think Cross was sublime. Dobie was still giving as good as he got, even in the ninth set. And you just got to, sometimes you just got to tip your hat, haven't you, to Cross. It was another tough one to take for Dobie, though. He's had a few like that over the years in various tournaments. And I really felt for him. But I was really encouraged by what he managed to do, and I saw nothing to want to put me off backing him again this year, because I just feel like this is a player who suits the format, suits the venue, and knows how to get it done at the Ali Pali. I know I've said that about Michael van Gerwen. Chris Dobie is rapidly becoming that man as well. He's had some harsh losses over the years as well. Lost to MVG in the quarters, or the last 16 a couple of years ago was whitewashed. Tough one to take, but I feel like he's learning all the time, and he really, really improved for that Premier League campaign he had in 2023. I think that stood him in such good stead, playing against the world's best week in, week out for 16 weeks. It really took his game to the next level. He's finally cracked that world's top 16 now, which means his draws will become more favourable in events like this. He's a Masters winner, so he knows he can win big titles. I am a big fan of Chris Dobie. Not only do I enjoy him and like him as a player and a person, I genuinely believe he's good enough to win a world championship. So I'm willing to die on this hill and say that Chris Dobie is a man you should be backing at 33 to 1. Now, I don't think there's a rush to take the price, would be my caveat. If you can get that 40 to 1 on offer, fantastic. And if you don't want to get involved now, you think you'll be getting involved a little bit later down the line, that's fine as well. I think he could drift. I think we could see, I think a lot of the popular money will go on the names above him. I don't think he'll even be the popular man in that section. I think people will want to back Anderson, and maybe even Wright, depending on how he goes over the next couple of months. So there's no major rush to back Dobie, I wouldn't say. I personally have him down as about a 20s chance at this tournament. So obviously 33 would be value. I think you could easily get some 40 over the next month or so. If he goes out of a tournament early, like the World Series of Darts, get on odds checker, see who has pushed him out, and take up that value would be my advice. That's how I would play it. I do have a position on Chris Dobie. I'm looking to extend that and build that a little bit more. And I think there'll be some nice prices on him to win outright on the exchange, which I'll try and take. So take it if you can beat me, basically. But yeah, that's kind of that tier, I suppose, covered. Everybody else is 50 to 1 or bigger. So we'll move on to the next section of players. Okay, I won't go as in depth on these guys, so I'll just try and keep it short and sweet. But all these players are all, in terms of talent, they can all do it, can't they? Nathan Aspinall, Josh Rock, Ross Smith, Johnny Clayton, Dave Chisnell, Damon Heta, Dimitri Vandenberg, Ryan Searle, Joe Cullen. Then you're probably getting into with Jan van Veen, a young hopeful. James Wade, does he quite have it to win it? Probably not. And then we're getting into people, where you're probably looking for a run more than genuine win chances, but you never know. Remember, Luke Littler went off. Well, Luke Littler was 100 to 1 chance last November, and he traded odds on to win it. So you can never not look that far down the market. It is my favourite part of the market, as regular viewers will know. But I have to be realistic about win prospects here. So out of all these guys, I could talk about them all. Nathan Aspinall, I'm going to put a line through because I think he's got serious injury problems. His wrists are causing him issues once again. He's out of action at the moment. A lot to prove and a lot to maybe put you off backing him at the moment. Nathan's a fantastic player when he's on song. I just want to see him get his wrist to a position where he can continue to play darts and his career is not in jeopardy, because it kind of is at the time of asking. So really want to hope that he gets better and the surgery and recovery goes well. If I had to pick players out of this section with a genuine win chance, I'd probably end up lying on two. Ross Smith at 50, I think he has a slight chance. He's the biggest 180 in the PDC. He's got better as his career's gone. His trajectory is quite clear. He's improving year on year on year on year. He's won the European Championship, so he knows what it takes to lift a big title, which is a massive tick in the box. He was very unlucky last year to go out to Dirk van Dijvenbode in a classic. And yeah, he had some bad draws in the last 2 or 3 years, Ross Smith. But he is the one player that I think in this section, whoever he played out of Littler, Humphries, MVG, I wouldn't mind backing him. I wouldn't mind being with him in a single to win that match. Therefore, you have to give him a chance in the win market, don't you? At 50 to 1, which is probably about right. But I'd sooner back him than a Josh Rock at 50 to 1, who look, I'm a big fan of Josh as well. I've backed him at fancy prices the last couple of years, but I need to see more of him before I back him to win the World Championship now at the current price. Johnny Clayton, a little bit of a return to form threatening, but again, is he going to go all the way? Probably not. Chizzy, God help him, can't seem to get over the line in a major. We'd love to see him do it. We'd love to see him do it here, wouldn't we? All darts fans, I think, but again, can't quite get there with him. Damon Heta is an interesting one. There's a 66 to 1 there. If you can use some kind of boost function and get that up towards 80 to 1, now you're talking. That's a bit of a value bet there. Damon, again, is probably someone you want to see win a major title before you're backing him to win the World Championship. But I think he has the self-belief now. We saw him dispatch Luke Littler in the UK Open. To me, he looked like the winner of that UK Open all the way through. It was only a little bit of a controversial loss to his old roommate, Dimitri van den Berg, that cost him a place in the final. But Damon, I've said it for years and years, future world champion for me. Maybe not just yet. Maybe needs to go and win a Grand Prix or a match play or something before he takes that next step in terms of self-belief on the biggest stage, I think. No, the one I would back in this section, if I was having a bet, and I haven't backed him yet, but I just think on the prices, Dimitri van den Berg is probably the one you would pick here. Now, he polarizes opinion, doesn't he, the Belgian? Not everybody likes him as a person and likes the way he carries on the stage, but you can't argue with his record, can you, as a major champion? He won the UK Open last year, as I mentioned, this year, as I mentioned, beat Luke Humphries in the final. He's won the World Match Play before, beating the best of the best. World Championship record is immaculate. Made the quarterfinals last year. Made the quarterfinals a couple of times now. No, more than twice. Sorry. So he tends to bring his best for this tournament, and I think that he's another one like Dobey. The set play and the pace and the atmosphere just seems to suit his game. And I think I've put 50 to 1 as his general price here. There is a 66 to 1 available, again, as you could see, with one supplier. If you could take that 66 to 1, that's too big for Dimitri van den Berg, pure and simple, as an each way bet to nothing. You'll be able to, if you back him at 66, you're going to be able to trade out a nice profit in that tournament, no doubt. So, yeah, I thought he was the one worth flagging from this section. The guys I haven't mentioned, Ryan Searle and Joe Cullen. Well, Joe Cullen's just had a really patchy year form-wise, and I'm not sure Joe, probably by his own admission, is going to win the World Championship at the moment. I don't think his game's quite there. Similar comments apply to Ryan Searle, who is a fantastic player on his day, but hasn't had the best of years. So Dimitri van den Berg would be my selection from that particular section, with special mentions for Ross Smith and Damon Heta. Now, the final section, I'm just going to pluck out a couple of fancy prices that you might want to have on your radar ahead of the coming months. As I scroll down, we're going to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And there's three guys that I'm going to mention in this section just before I leave you. The first of which is Vessel Nyman at 200 to 1. Now, can these three guys I mentioned win this year's World Championship? Hand on heart, probably not. Do I want to back them at the price just because their value? Yes, I do. And yes, if you're a layer, or if you're a quarter better, then these are names that should definitely be on your radar as soon as those markets emerge. So Vessel Nyman has had a fantastic breakthrough year on the PDC tour. If I was picking one player who could kind of replicate what Luke Littler did last year, it probably would be Nyman. But admittedly, he wouldn't have the support of the crowd that Littler did. It probably wouldn't have the same buzz around him in that sense. But in terms of raw ability, he's fantastic. I mean, he was Littler's former sort of rival on the development tour last year. They had some titanic battles, and Nyman gave as good as he got in those. And then they actually met in a Euro Tour early this year, and Nyman beat Littler. He's one of only three men to beat Luke Littler on the Euro Tour this year. So his natural ability is not in question. He's a master 180 hitter, be right up there with the very best on the tour this year. I personally think he'll win a floor title, or at least reach a final before the year is out. His form on the Pro Tour has been sensational, and that will make his price detract. So therefore, that is enough reason for me to want to take that 200 to 1, just as a little bit of a just in case, an insurance policy, because he's certainly got the talent. Another man at 200 to 1, I've actually backed him at a few bigger prices, fancifully, admittedly, is Cami Menzies. Now, This is a name that many people, if you don't follow darts regularly, you'll think, how on earth is he putting him up as a potential world champion? Well, Cameron Menzies has been a revelation this year. He's inside the top 10 of the annual averages. He's been arguably the Pro Tour's most consistent performer, certainly in the last 3 months. So many 100 averages. I would say you come to expect a ton plus average now from Cameron Menzies. The key thing we have to see is we have to now see if he can translate this form onto the TV. He's playing in the Euro Tour this weekend. That'll be a very good indicator, I think. He has had some good performances on the Euro Tour, but I want to see a deep run from Cammy, really. I want to see what he does on the Pro Tour. I want to see him do it on a big stage. And we're going to get opportunities to see that over the next few weeks because we've got the Euro Tour this weekend. He's at the World Series of Darts finals the week after that. So he's playing Gerwyn Price in the first round of the World Series of Darts. If he plays how he's been playing the last 2 months, I think he beats Gerwyn Price. And I think this 200 to 1 vanishes. And I think you'll be doing well to get half of that. So with that in mind, yes, there's as well on the Betfair Exchange. I noticed as well. Someone agrees with me somewhere at least. I do think it's worth just having Cammy on side at 200 to 1. Because he is playing that well. And I think he'll be a spoiler in this tournament. I think if he draws 75% of seeds, he can fancy his chances of knocking them out. So, yeah, he's definitely one that I would have on side. Now, the last person I'm going to mention, and I'm actually going to remove Odds Checker from the screen because he's not even priced up yet. Nico Springer, the young German talent. Now, Nico Springer has been a name that's been popping up at Q School for the last 2 or 3 years. And what he always tends to do is he goes through the first stage and then doesn't even bother playing. Why is that? Because he's been focusing on his education. He's only a young man, very savvy, and must have some good heads around him to do that. But I believe next year is the year he's going to go and get his tour card, and he might not even have to go and get it because he is currently sat in the top 2 of the development tour, which entitles you to a tour card, and it gets you a place at Ali Pali. And that's how he's going to qualify for this year's World Championship, because the guys he's competing with, the likes of Wessel Nijman, the likes of Jan van Veen, they're going to qualify through other means. Wesley Pleisier, they get through on the Pro Tour Order of Merit or the World's the top 32 in the case of Van Veen. So Springer is going to inherit a World Championship spot almost certainly. That'll be confirmed in November, which is why he's not currently in the market. When he does come into the market, are you going to back into in the World Championship? Probably not, but it's definitely a name to have on your radar. Whatever seed draws him, I think they'll arguably have had the worst draw of the first round and the second round. I expect him to have a little run here and show everyone what he's all about. I think this is the only chance in your life you're going to have to get Nico Springer at potentially a huge price. So do you just take it and accept it? He almost certainly won't win. Depends on your risk aversion, I suppose. But yeah, he's a name that I thought, even though he's not in the market, I wanted to put him on everybody's radar because I think he's a fabulous talent. PDC have a Euro version, like a next gen series running at the moment. Springer has effectively won every week of that. As I say, flying on the Dev Tour, he's beat the likes of Nijman, Van Veen, Connor Scott, some really talented players to titles. We've not seen much of him this year on the main events. Euro Tour last week, he qualified. I was really excited to see him. He drew Peter Wright, averaged a ton, and lost 6-4. And Peter Wright went on to win the title. So nothing lost in defeat there. I still believe he's a top-class operator, and he's definitely somebody you want to keep on your radar as soon as he enters this market. Could be a great outsider, dark horse in the quarter betting, and definitely one to keep an eye on in the match betting. So that kind of concludes my roundup of the PDC World Championship market as it is now in early September. It is going to change so much between now and Christmas. I'll probably be back with another roundup, maybe ahead of the Players Championship finals, something like that. And then we'll have no end of preview content coming your way on the channel, including a panel show, hopefully, which I'm hoping to pull together before the World Championship kicks off with some very knowledgeable heads involved. So if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please let me know in the comments who your idea of the best bet is at this stage for this year's World Championship. Any dark horses you'd like to flag up at the current prices as well. We do like a little bit of trumpet blowing in the comments if you manage to find a winner. And if you enjoyed this content, please do consider subscribing to OddsNow. Really appreciate you hanging around. We've got oddsnow.com, the website, OddsNow TV on TikTok, and OddsNow with a _ on Twitter or X. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.